Our collusion and corruption segment tonight, the mainstream media's complicity in the FBI's targeting of President Trump. How do Democrats justify their defense of a government that snoops on and targets private citizens just because the government officials don't like the person's politics? We learned in the memo released today by the House Intelligence Committee and declassified by President Trump that mainstream media outlets like Yahoo and Mother Jones were used by FBI source Christopher Steele to plant stories in hopes of boosting the credibility of the dossier in the eyes of the public. How are we, the American people, supposed to trust Democrats, supposed to trust the mainstream media when they had access to this information, they knew about this abuse of our intelligence community, and they lied to us about it? With me now, former CIA officer and national security consultant and at partner Artemis, Sam Faddis. Sam, thanks for being here.
Great to be here, Liz.
All right, Sam, I want to talk about Congressman Schiff. That's who I want us to put our microscope on for this segment. Congressman Schiff had access to all of this information. Congressman Schiff knew about these abuses in the intelligence community. Congressman Schiff knew that the Steele dossier was the largest, possibly even the only justification for these FISA court orders to spy on Trump campaign official Carter Page. Why on earth would he want to hide that from the American people?
For purely political reasons. There is no other justification. And you have put your finger on the heart of the matter, because this calls into question all of our faith in our institutions. When you are willing to simply, for political purposes, do and say anything, apparently.
And I guess that's my question. I mean, I'm sitting here almost deflated. I'm shocked that people who knew. I guess it's a little bit different for some of the mainstream media talking heads who didn't have the proof in front of them. They did not have access to the information contained in this memo. So yes, they were talking heads of the Democrats, but in their defense, I suppose, you know, they're more weak-willed than they are this corrupt. But are our elected officials truly this corrupt that they would hide this abuse to this extent from the American people just to push their own political agenda?
Well, one would hope to God that this is not characteristic of all of them. But certainly in this case, at least this representative was that corrupt and that motivated by purely political purposes. I mean, when you look at the facts here, what was presented to the court and used to obtain this warrant, this is unprecedented. I have never seen a case like this in 30 years of an intelligence work. This doesn't happen. This was an egregious abuse of process, and anybody with any integrity would have to say that out loud.
Right, yet we don't hear people from the Democratic Party, our elected officials, or even people from the mainstream media saying what should be so obvious, that this is horrific no matter what side of the aisle that you're on. Okay, you have been part of this process before, these FISA court warrants, the applications in order to obtain them. When we're talking about what we learned in the memo today, the fact that Department of Justice officials misrepresented that Steele dossier, they misrepresented Christopher Steele himself. They neglected to tell the judge that he was paid by Hillary Clinton, paid by the Democratic National Committee, that he was a source for the FBI, but the FBI fired him. All those types of things. Talk to me about what that means within the intelligence community, that you could lie, by omission perhaps, but still lie to get a warrant to spy on an American citizen. Is this rampant?
Well, I hope to God it is not rampant now. It is certainly not characteristic of anything that I saw in my 30 years of work in the intelligence community. You have your integrity and your professionalism, and you adhere to that at all times, and you follow those principles. And if you don't, you are lost. And in this case, all of that was thrown to the wind. Every one of those principles was disregarded. Purely political purposes drove this.
Right, it's absolutely shocking. In my opinion, Congressman Schiff should step down over this. He has lied to the American people multiple times. He has defended keeping secret abuses inflicted on citizens by our government. That is not his role in Congress. That is an abuse of his position and the trust we place in him, and he should step down. Sam, what should happen from a legal standpoint? The individuals at the Department of Justice or the FBI that were involved in this, what should happen to those people, and to whom should it happen?
Well, there needs to be, we need to follow this to the ground, and we need to investigate this, and at a minimum, we need to remove a whole bunch of people from their positions, those that are still there. There may, in fact, also be criminal charges that need to be brought. But let's keep in mind, Liz, I mean, when you go get a FISA warrant, this was not just a memorandum that was prepared or a request for a warrant. It then had to go through all sorts of layers at the FBI and the Department of Justice. The number of people who had to chop on this and be brought into it is just staggering. This is not one or two people. This is entire layers of command that were involved here.
Right. Essentially, the people who should lose their jobs should be like a row of dominoes. This is not one individual or one instance, one isolated instance of abuse. This is shocking. I don't understand, sitting outside of the intelligence community, how something like this could slip through the cracks, how the FBI could have neglected to verify the contents of this dossier before they used it as the primary reason for applying for a warrant like this. That seems elementary to me, and I'm not even in the intelligence community. You verify information before you use it as a reason to violate somebody else's rights. And the fact that that wasn't caught by all of these layers in the FBI and the Department of Justice, like you mentioned, that to me should cause heads to roll, and hopefully we shall see that soon. Sam, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it. All right, guys, we have to take just a quick break here, but right after that, our next tipping point is with Sagar and Jetty. President Trump starting to come down harder on Democrats for not coming to the table over DACA. The president says the Democrats' strategy on DACA and border security is resist, blame, complain, and obstruct. Are the Democrats using Dreamers as a political pawn then? The answer next. Stick with us.